So incredibly excited to have you here with me today. Um, have you guys ever made a decision that, like, in the moment you thought was the greatest and best idea ever? Like, you thought this is a fantastic idea. But really, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes down to it, it was like a 9.5 on the Richter scale, worst idea ever. Like, absolutely horrible. Yeah, I've done that too. Um, I love grapes. I love them. Love them. They're still one of my favorite fruits. But as a kid, it was they were candy to me. I thought grapes were just the greatest thing ever. I would eat them all the time. And every time I eat them, you would think that I was eating grapes for the first time ever, or that it was like my last meal on earth right before I faced the firing squad. And I remember one day, I was around like 3 years old. We had come home from church, and my mom had put my sister and I down to bed for a nap. My dad was at work, and my mom also wanted to take a nap. I guess going to church and taking care of our kids was stressful, tiring, whatever. But I had a tendency, like, I didn't always love to nap, so I had a tendency to not really nap, but I'd wait for everybody to kind of fall asleep. And then, like, I'd sneak up to the fridge and, like, eat grapes. And on this particular day, like, I snuck up there and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to get up here. Hopefully, sneaking up like I'm sneaking up at Santa Claus on Christmas, that there's like this magical full thing of grapes. And on this particular day, it was like this big, huge bowl of like these green, delicious, incredible grapes. I ate the entire bowl, the entire bowl. And it was about 45 minutes later when the magic happened, right? Like, that's when the party that really got started. And I pooped in my pull-up. Now, I say a pull-up. It could have been a diaper. I was 3. I don't necessarily remember. Either way, I pooped. And I may be exaggerating, but this is my memory of it, and this is what I remember. But I think it might have been like the poopiest diaper of all time in the history of poopy diapers. Like, I've got 3 kids. I've changed diapers. I don't even remember my kids pooping like this. And it was phenomenal. It was the kind, like, in college, I would have called a buddy in just to show him so I wasn't exaggerating, right? And yes, it's a real thing men do. Really apologize, ladies. Now, I had this slide in my room, and it was one of my favorite toys. I love this slide. But I must have felt like there was something just missing from it a little bit. Maybe a little color. A little bit of me. It needed a little more character, if you will. So the light bulb went off in my head, in my tiny little brain, and faster than, like, my neighbor's Tesla, my pull-up was off, and I was like knuckles deep, like deep in poop-colored finger paint. And, I mean, I smeared it everywhere. I smeared it all over the slide. I smeared it, everywhere. Drawing pictures. I was a regular poop Picasso. I mean, I was really making it. And, I was stepped back and I'm admiring my masterpiece. And I just thought to myself, like, I've got an idea. Like Chip and Joanna Gaines, I just saw the potential for this fixer-upper that I was living in and how it needed a little bit more decoration. And so, I mean, the railing, like the creases in the railing of the stairs that were leading down to our basement, the carpet, the walls, there were poop smiley faces, poop flowers, poop families, you name it. I was drawing it and I thought it was incredible. I was smeared it into the carpet. I thought this was the greatest idea ever. I was so proud of my masterpiece. And when my mom woke up, though, she was not as ecstatic about, my work as what I was. She was not a fan. She was not going to be coming to my, the opening of my art gallery anytime soon. She was so mad. She called my dad crying. My dad was at work. He worked at TVA. She's just crying. She's upset. She has to clean it. I mean, I absolutely ruined her afternoon after church. I really crapped on her afternoon, if you know what I mean. Have you ever had something like that happen to you, though? Maybe not with poop, but you thought something was an incredible idea, and come to find out, it really just sucked for everybody else involved, and even really didn't work out too great for yourself either. That literally happened to me yesterday, and you would think you would learn not to go smearing poop everywhere. But yesterday I'm at our 10U football practice, and it was our first day of hitting, and we show up, and we had taken some time. I'm the head coach, and my assistant coaches had taken the time to line out a field that we used to practice, and some of the other youth sports teams practice here as well, and we show up 30, 45 minutes early to practice, and the 9U team is already out there, and they're kind of getting prepared and to start using the area that we use as a 10U team to practice. And so, I get there, and in the moment, all I was thinking about was my practice field, my practice area, wanting my kids to be able to use the area and learn where we had put, all of this time and effort into. I thought, I've got to go have a conversation with the 9U coach and kind of explain to him what's going on. And so, I did, not realizing that he had already started practice. And so I interrupt his practice, and it just did not go great. And I didn't handle myself the greatest. I wasn't, loud or obnoxious or anything like that, but I got a little frustrated, and we ended up saying, it doesn't make sense for us to have this conversation in front of the kids. But apparently it was enough to where some other parents had called the commissioner and was like, hey, you've got two coaches arguing over practice area and all this stuff. And, for the first 45 minutes of my practice, I'm having to deal with this situation that I created because I thought it was a great idea to go talk to the coach and ask him to move. But in reality, I was only thinking about myself. I wasn't thinking about him, his team, that they had already started practice, that maybe they needed this part of the field. All I was thinking about was myself and what I wanted. And what ended up happening was what I thought was going to be beneficial and helpful to my team ended up really creating a pretty poor atmosphere for a majority of my practice. See, I went to smear my poop everywhere, doing what I thought was best in the moment, making a decision for what I wanted most in the moment without thinking about the impact that might make on the people around me or even myself. And how often do we get ourselves in that situations as leaders, as friends, in our relationships with our spouses, with our kids? We make a decision thinking this is going to be the best decision, but the only insight that we have, or the only things that we're looking at, is really what we want. We're focused on ourselves in the moment and the things that we want versus, is this decision going to be the best decision for the greater good? And is this going to have a negative impact on anybody around me? So I think that's where we have to be incredibly careful. That we have to consider all variables when we're making a decision. And we can't just solely be focused on ourselves. You see, we live in a selfish world where we're told to be self-enabled, self-developed, self-promoting, selfies, self-checkouts. We are concerned with what we want as a self, and we don't necessarily consider the world around us when we're making decisions. And I would just tell you, I would encourage you that the last thing that you want to do is smear your poop all over the environment that other people have to be with you in. That not considering or being considerate of the other people around you when you're making that a choice like that could potentially be really harmful for not only them, but then for yourself as well, and create an environment even worse than what you were already in that moment. So, take that time. Think about it. Think about who you're going to affect outside of just yourself with the decision that you're going to make. And is it going to be a positive one or a negative one? Now, look, you can't make everybody happy. That's impossible. But you can be considerate of people and take the opinions or the feelings, the needs of other people into account before you make a decision to make sure that, unlike me at 3 years old and apparently yesterday, that you're not just out there smearing poop all over everybody. It's a lesson learned the hard way. Hopefully you won't make the same one. But look, I love you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And we'll talk soon.